I've gone ahead and kicked off our recording, and the first thing I wanted to say was thanks to Amy on the line. I realized that there was an email notification issue happening on the site. So what I did last weekend was upgrade our Academy site, and emails have started going out, and hopefully that is not a concern going forward. However, if you notice that you dive into the announcements forum and there's a post there that you didn't get an email digest about, please don't hesitate to let me know. That's really the only way I can most easily, I suppose, keep an eye on that continuing to work. So don't hesitate to let me know if there's an issue.
And I did receive old emails, Vanessa, that you
Yeah.
sent out the week prior once it was fixed. So they might have been just hanging out in the queue.
Yeah,
And,
I think they were probably
yeah.
just clogged. So thanks for letting me know about that, Amy. It should be good to go going forward. The other thing I wanted to say is we have a very special guest on the line today, one of our colleagues, Daniel Heffley, who has put together some information on, Tamara, I think it was your question about the tabs in a label and how exactly to do that. So I thought Daniel would be a great person to speak to that. And also for Maureen's point about some fancy CSS done within a quiz, I thought Daniel might like to see that. So he's going to be on the line just for the very beginning here. And then, we'll let him scoot back to whatever he was doing and we'll move forward. But Daniel, if you want to feel free to take the reins and go for whatever information you wanted to chat over, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. You're welcome to share your screen or whatever else works for you.
All right. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
You're welcome.
And hello, everybody. So let me go ahead and share out my screen. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's perfect for me, and I can see your screen.
Yep,
All
I
right.
can too.
Wonderful.
All good.
Okay, so yeah, as Vanessa pointed out, I'm here to talk about the possibility or the ability to add tabs in a label. And so, there's a lot of things you can do in Moodle with labels, and we think that we can add text, images, videos, but with a little bit of creativity and a little bit of knowledge of HTML, CSS, maybe a little JavaScript, but you can do a lot. And but not so much JavaScript, because what I'm going to show you is, you can copy and paste what I have, and you really don't need to know what it does, just know that it works. So so here's the example that I have for the tab navigation, or a tabbed content in a label. And so you can see that I've customized it. It looks nice. And so basically, what does it, what's it look like on the back end, and how do you get this to look like this? Well, here I've set up some instructions, and don't be scared if you don't know what it all means, but I've tried to put in some, some comments here to let you know what to do and how to do it. And so, for example, here, change tab names as desired. And so you can see that here, about this course is this, it's the first tab, about this course. And so here are the tab names: topics, evaluation and grading, course schedule, and download course syllabus. So of course, if you wanted to modify these, you could do that. And then down below here is change the contents of tabs. So the content is, whatever's here in the main content. And so basically, I've left more comments here. So modify title and text of tab below. So here is the title, and here's the text. And so, and it goes pretty much like this on through the 5 tabs that are there. And then here's the JavaScript, and I call it script area, do not modify. And so, there's no need to touch any of this. Just know that it's there and that it works. And so basically what you do is, you take this and you copy it. And I'm just going to go in here and use this. When you're creating your label, you'll just take that And of course, you'll need to open up the advanced button here and then go into HTML, and you'll just paste that in there. Okay. And so if I scroll down, you can see there's a little bit more content. And it's everything that I was discussing earlier. And so basically, so that you get an idea, we want to change the title here. And so, you know, you have about this course, let's say about the instructor. And then down here, you have about this course. And of course, we'll leave that as is. And here for topics, about the instructor. Oops. Oh, not having a good typing day. About the instructor, and then you can, you know, we can delete all that. And then within the P tags, the paragraph tags, my name is, I'll be your instructor. Blah, 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 blah. Close the P tag. And that's pretty much it. So, you know, you can switch back to the regular view to see what it looks like. Unfortunately, with this, the way it's set up, in order to modify the content, you do have to change over to the HTML view, because if you click and try to add it here, it's going to take you directly back to the course page. I don't want to do that because I want to save my changes, but I'll show you what I mean here. So if you just go in and we'll edit the settings, and if you try to click on one of these tabs to select it, oh, I see, it almost let me, but then it threw me back to the course page. Now, right now, you know, you see that it looks nice, and so that's been done through the CSS. And if we move further down, excuse me, there's a section here about CSS, and so with the CSS, you would have to have an admin put it in to the theme area. And the idea, excuse me, I was thinking perhaps the idea would be that, you know, you could set it up, the admin would set it up with the brand, you know, the colors that are on your organization or institution, however whatever the consensus was, for all the, you know, for the pages that wanted to use it. And then, and then you don't have to worry about it. And so once that's in place, it's saved, then you get this nice looking, these nice looking tabs.
You're referring to like the highlight color, right? And then that underline, that's what you're referring to with your CSS is applying to, right?
The tab, well, actually, yeah, the tab color, the border radius here, that it's nice and rounded, the hover color that I have here. Basically, yeah, anything that has to do with the kind of the formatting of the colors and the style of that is being done through the CSS.
Perfect. Can you speak generally to what it would look like without the applied CSS? And not that we need a, you know, like a visual of it, but can you speak to, for anyone who doesn't have full admin, you know, what that might look like, or however,
Actually,
want to show us?
Yeah, I'll show
Gonna
you.
go fancy and show us?
I was actually thinking about doing that, and
Cool.
because it doesn't look too bad either. And so so let me just, and it's very easy for me just to remove the CSS.
Okay.
So what are we, boost theme?
Yep.
And so here, see tab styling, here's the CSS that I had pasted in earlier. And let's just, I'm not going to remove it, but I'm just going to comment it out. Oh, what happened? Oh, it didn't like that. Okay. It's maybe because it has all the other comments. Okay, let me just delete it. All right. And so I'll go ahead and refresh. All right, it didn't take that time. Give it a second. Still working.
I can purge the caches if that's needed, but I know it takes some
It
time to
usually just takes
process
a couple
too.
of just takes a couple of times to refresh. And let me
Yep,
shift it.
any theme changes usually like to take some time.
Huh. It did delete it. It's not there. There it is.
There it
And
goes.
so, yeah. So basically, this is what it would look like without. Let's see. There's what I changed about the instructor, about the course. So that's basically what it would look like without any CSS. So yeah, you wouldn't necessarily have to have any kind of admin, rights or privileges. You could just copy this section in and omit the CSS, and that's what it would look like.
That's awesome.
Basically it.
That's great. In the chat, everyone, I mentioned I'll put this example into our course so that Daniel's instructions are something you can reference. Just make sure if you want that for anything going forward, make sure you save yourself a copy of that so that when our course ends, you still have access to it.
Yeah, Vanessa, I was thinking that one of a good application of this is that if an institution wanted to set up a template, a course template, you could put this into the course template and then add the CSS, but then already have this label created, so nobody would have to do any copy pasting or anything like that. And all they would need to do would when new courses are created based on that template, then this tab navigation is already going to be there. So.
Absolutely. I can see that happening. And then, what the instructors could do would just modify the tab about them, or specify anything specific about their course, that sort of thing. But the placeholder is there. The tough part is done for them.
Right. And one thing that had just occurred to me. So for example, say you want 4 tabs. So, you would just take this section here, or, this section, change content of tab 5, and you can delete that. And then you would have to delete this tab 5 section here, or vice versa. If you wanted to add one, you can just select this, copy it, paste it below it, change this to tab 6, change the tab name, and do the same thing here with the tab content. Just select that, copy it, paste it, and then just add tab 6, and then modify the title and the content. So.
Beautiful. Thanks, Daniel. I know everyone's really appreciative. I don't know if you've seen the chat, but this is great. And admittedly, your brain is so much better at this sort of thing than mine, which is why you are here assisting us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I let you go, I just wanted to say one other quick thing about the course, and then I thought we would dive into one other item that was related to CSS. So let me share my screen. I wanted to mention to you all that I opened up the next 2 topics, which are running the electric and designing your interior. So based on the flow of our course, we've started talking about the basics. We've set up some of those preliminary, perhaps quote unquote easy modules, and now we're going to get fancy and really start to craft our Moodle house in ways that fit our needs and our unique preferences. So those are available to you now, and they will be open for the next week before our next live session, and then we'll dive into your thoughts and comments about the items you find within there. The piece, Daniel, that I thought you might want to hang in for, I'm going to pass to Maureen to talk about, but she mentioned something unique that they're doing with CSS within quizzes. So Maureen, I'll keep my screen up. unless you would like to do anything different, but I will go ahead and give the floor to you to chat over what it is you're up to and share any details that you might like to with the group.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if you scroll down just a little bit farther, where right there. So Daniel, you can take a look at this and see if you spot any issues with it, but we're running Moodle 3.4, our Boost Campus on Moodle 3.4, and we're looking for a way to eliminate that navigation menu and jump to drop-down list when you're in a quiz, because we were finding it was distracting our users. So what we did is our site is running on a third party is hosting it, so we don't have access to the .css files or anything like that. But what I found is that we could put some CSS into the additional HTML page in the site administrator settings. And so we just identified the actual container in the quizzes that housed that navigation components, those controls, and then we just did a display none to hide them. And so far it's working fine. We're not seeing anything else hidden that shouldn't be. So yeah, and we just added the style type. We needed to do that in our particular environment in order to get that to be recognized in the before body is closed container. So
yeah, Maureen, that's great. I just I had forgotten. You know, I'm so used to adding the changes to the raw CSS in the theme that I forgot that you're right that you can do it by adding it to the additional HTML. And that's a great way for people that don't have full admin access to do that. And just looking at the rule here, it looks right on. You know, you've limited to the path mod quiz, so you're not going to be affecting anything outside of the quiz module. And then you've limited to those containers that do the navigation. So yeah, awesome work.
all right, thanks.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And Daniel, with your expertise in CSS, I thought, okay, hang on for just a few more minutes and take a look at what other people are doing. All right, anything else on this note? And I'll say for the larger group here, CSS is not my forte, so we certainly don't need to go this far, but if you're intrigued or interested or have a need, we thought it would be good to call this out for the larger group just to give you food for thought, even if it's just to show you all that Moodle can do, even if, you know, a use case for your particular scenario wouldn't require it, but just to show you what's possible. So are there any other thoughts or questions before we move forward with some of the other thoughts and contributions from the past week?
Vanessa, this is Maureen, and I was just going to say that, you know, as far as the code, because I've been in that space too where you're not able to touch it yourself, but anybody who wanted to take Daniel's code or take this little style to hide the navigation and quizzes, they could get that to their administrator and they could test it out and see if it would work. So,
great point. Absolutely. Anybody else?
Let me just thank Vanessa. Thank you, Vanessa, for having me on.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everybody, for paying attention. And so with that, everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll be signing off.
Okay,
Thanks,
sounds
everybody.
great, Daniel. Take care. Thank you. All
right, bye-bye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so I think what I'll do is go ahead and stick with the thread of the navigation jump to links. So one of you pointed out something that is very true. We have these jump to and sort of go back, go forward menu links at the bottom of each page. That's a relatively new feature in the last few versions of Moodle. But it is in addition to other menu items that we have, for example, within a book resource. So it can be confusing to understand that we have to go through an entire set of chapters within a book before we move on to the next particular module in the course. And one thing that I gathered from the feedback that was shared is that as a trainer myself, or as someone that builds training content for users, there's always a potential for me to do a better job of providing structure and guidance for users going through my content. So my thought with the comment that was shared was, not only will I going forward do a better job of saying, you know, for in this particular example, there's 10 chapters in the book, make sure you reach the conclusion before you jump over to the use of forums, for example.
Yeah, this is Anna, and
Hey,
that
Anna.
was, hey, so that was my comment, and I still I still do think, especially, you know, you can see there's use of forums there, and then directly above it you've got the book arrows, and I think those being so close also make it difficult. And because like the use of forums and Moodle Foundation discussion ones are sort of big on the page, your eye just like gets drawn to them. And then the other thing I'll just note, in talking with one of my colleagues who's also in this course, Tamara was doing it in Internet Explorer, and I was on Chrome. And in Internet Explorer, the table of contents actually showed up not next to it like you're seeing here, but low and to the right on the page, so you didn't actually even see the table of contents like in your eyesight. So that was also, I think, just a confusion. But
okay, great
otherwise.
feedback. Let me speak to a couple of those pieces. Now, first of all, if as an institution you find that there's a pretty clear consensus that use of forums as a go forward, you know, menu navigation item is too close to the book arrows, again, with CSS, you can manipulate some of that. So you could potentially manipulate that so that it is there is a clearer distinction. The other thing is, in terms of Internet Explorer, if you go on Moodle.org, Internet Explorer is not a supported browser for Moodle, and truly it's kind of a dated browser in general. So the preference is that you use Google Chrome or Firefox. And I can include some of those resources too if that would help, but there's pretty clear distinction that Internet Explorer in general, not the most up-to-date, and certainly not the most well-behaved with Moodle. So we, as a company at eThink, always suggest to our clients that they use supported browsers. That might be something that organizationally you try to get a consensus and everybody is using particular browsers so that their experience is the same. So I can share some information on that, but just to speak to the browser related issue, you do want to be using browsers that are well supported and are most up to date. And so Internet Explorer, some of it does get a little wonky, and that's exactly why you're experiencing that particular piece. So a couple things you can do. You know, perhaps, you know, across your organization, you're recommending particular browsers. If you have a consensus from users that things are too condensed, too close together, that's something you can address. And then at the most simplistic, and one thing that I'm taking out of this for myself personally as an instructor is to provide clear guidance. So maybe in the introduction of your book, you would be clear to say, please notice, and maybe you have an image, please notice there's jump to menu items and navigation options at the bottom, but keep in mind that's going to take you on to the very next module, not necessarily the next chapter of the book. And you could call out these go to the next chapter sort of icons as well, just to be very clear for people. And so I'm taking that out of your feedback so that I, going forward, am a little bit more clear. Sometimes when you're a regular Moodler, you don't realize that others might have question or confusion about something that you just inherently think is working or thinks, you know, makes sense. So thank you for bringing that up.
Just one question and another question though. Do you have, excuse me, do you have to have those navigation? Is there any way to just get rid of them if you don't like them?
So in terms of like a site-wide setting for those bottom navigation links, they are inherently there. Whether or not that could be commented out via CSS site-wide, I don't know. Too bad Daniel jumped off the line. I would think from what I've seen him do, pretty much anything is possible, but I have seen some limitations. If we want a clear answer on that, I'd be happy to ask him and provide you with that feedback.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Sure, no problem. Let me just make a note. Okay. So I'll share a document on supported browsers for Moodle. There are some suggestions, and I'll go so far as to say strong suggestions on what you should use and what version you should be running. So I'm going to make a comment to myself about that. And then there's another comment in the chat about learning more about CSS and how to go about that. For those of you that are eThink clients, especially when it comes to user tours and the use of CSS there, we have some documentation on even just supports available across the web on understanding CSS, but it's not something that even for clients that we necessarily train upon. It's really more something that you'll have to poke into on your own. I can include some of those resources so that you can dive in and understand the inspector element on your device and sort of understand how to go about finding those classes and etc. So I'll share that as well. Okay. Anything else before we jump into the next piece that I thought I would call out for today's agenda? Anything on what we've chatted about? Anything semi-related that you just want to throw out there?
Hi, Vanessa. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Mary Doris. How you doing?
Hi, Mary Doris. How are you?
I'm good, good. I've been typing some questions. I'm not sure if you're able to see them. But I had two major questions. I am more interested in learning about CSS. I think that we're going to use that a lot. I like what Daniel has shown about the tabs. The theme that we have is the school theme, so we're trying to build the school. The other question was, I heard you speak about Chrome and Safari. So, I'm sorry, Firefox. So Safari is not supported, meaning that if I have a student that wants to use their Mac Pro, their tablet, they cannot access the school through Safari?
No, not necessarily. There's just unique experiences with different browsers. Some of them are more cooperative than others. And I'm going to go ahead. I did see your chat, and I did just actually comment about this. Perhaps you didn't hear. I wasn't ignoring you, promise.
Okay.
I'll share a resource for suggested browsers for optimum use of Moodle. Actually, for everyone, just to give you an idea, anytime I'm going to give you little extras that come out of our chats, I'm going to put them at the top of the course here under webinar recordings. I'm going to create an entirely different section that says resources, and I'll put them there. So you'll be able to see supported browsers, information about that, etc. All kinds of details. I'll put that there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. The other piece in terms of CSS. So this particular course is not focused on understanding CSS and that sort of particular piece of knowledge. We do have some external resources that I can share, and I've made a note to do that as well. They're just resources that we have found across the web to give you a better idea of understanding CSS and using your inspector element for identifying classes and things like that. And honestly, the other thing I'll tell you as a larger group, let's say, for example, Maridoris, you have a question about this, and Maureen has experience. We would encourage you to lean on each other. And so, Maureen, not to say that it's your job to instruct or anything like that, but that's why we collectively meet. We're all from different organizations, we have different experiences, and the more we can just collaborate, the better off that we'll all be. So don't hesitate to say to the larger group, I'm really interested in user tours. Has anyone built one? You know, that sort of thing. You can use this raise your hand forum at the top of the course to pose those types of questions, and then collectively we can work together to get us all raised up a little bit more in our Moodle knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. So honestly, this is the best part that will come out of these webinars and out of this experience, is just us working together, because like I said, we all have different experiences, and so these types of interactions are invaluable, and I encourage you to do all you can to ask questions. Actually, Tamara's question about the HTML in a label is what sort of started us off on this path. The other thing I'll mention is this is the third cohort that we've had of this particular Academy launch, and every single cohort is different. So we learn together, and we want you to get the most out of it. So if you don't ask a question, we can't help. And so in order for you to get the most bang for your buck, please don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Okay, hopefully that answers that. Hopefully you're happy. It looks like Maureen posted a resource in the chat. Thanks, Maureen. And then just, these should be informal. And anyone who knows me knows that if you have a question, just ask. I won't be offended. You can interrupt me anytime. I want you to be satisfied by the time we're off the call today. So I'll go ahead and move on, but if you have a thought in mind, please feel free to speak up. I have two more things I wanted to call out to you guys before the end of our call, which is almost rapidly approaching. The first is, I thought we could talk about stealth activities, which came up in one of the forum posts. There are very basic ways to use stealth activities. Just to sort of back up and talk about them from the beginning, they're based off of what used to be called orphaned activities, which were possible in Moodle in previous versions, but not exactly supported by HQ, so there were a couple of little bugs with it. Now we have the ability to create stealth activities in version 3.3 and on, so you have to be running version 3.3 of Moodle or higher. You can tackle this in a way that maybe one of your courses has a lot of just introductory resources at the very top of the page, and it's kind of cluttered and long scroll to get past it. That's absolutely one way to use stealth activities, and that's covered in the course. I wanted to share two other things and to say it verbally that I've seen done with stealth activities from some of our clients that sort of take this above and beyond. And I thought for those of you who are either experienced Moodlers and or have used stealth activities before and or are just excited and want to try all kinds of things, that maybe this would inspire you and give you some food for thought. So the first way that we saw these used pretty creatively was one of our clients who leans pretty heavily on lessons. And for those of you that have worked with lessons before and have attempted to put in an essay question type, the grading within the lesson module itself for essay question types is clunkier than the grading in a quiz. So when you build a quiz, you have 4 core reports. One of them is for manual grading, and you can move really easily through one essay at a time and just scroll through everyone in your course that's contributed. It's really clean. In the lesson module, it's a little less so. You grade one at a time, and after grading an essay, you have to go back to the lesson module, back to the essay tab, and select the next student. So with that background in mind, one of our clients was like, well, we really love the lesson, we just want an essay at the end. So I proposed that in their lesson, the last page of it could be a content page, and they could make use of stealth activities that relies on the activity auto-linking filter. And they could link out to a quiz where there'd live an essay question. The students would never know they were in a separate module. The grading would be a lot easier on the teacher. So that's a quick summary. If anyone wants to see that simulated, I can also share that particular resource. I wanted to just sort of throw it out there today as food for thought, as sort of proof of concept, I suppose, to say this is possible. So that's one that I put together for a client that just had a question. The other example, I cannot take any credit, nor would I ever do so. This was from a college in Canada, and actually the only reason I know anything about this is they submitted a support ticket, and I happened to look at it and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. So what they're doing is they are incorporating stealth activities into quiz question feedback. So you know how you pose a question in Moodle in a quiz and you can have unique feedback for each answer. So what color is the sky? And I say purple, and you might say, no, you're ridiculous, get some glasses, right? That might be your feedback. What they were doing is that they would provide a link to supplementary material to raise up that student and support where they were going wrong by choosing an incorrect answer, and they were doing that through stealth activities. So in their course, maybe in the last section, tucked away privately were, let's say, links to Khan Academy or YouTube videos or TED Talks, whatever it is that was supportive for the learner. And they would include those in the feedback section of quiz questions. So if I got something wrong, I'd have the opportunity to click for an external resource that would help me understand where I went wrong. I thought that was brilliant as well. So I know I wasn't talking that long, but for some reason I feel like I've said a lot. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to take a sip of water. If there's any questions or comments, I see some things in the chat. Yes, absolutely, I'll share the resource. But any comments about that while I take a quick sip of water?
Vanessa, I had a quick question about those stealth activities, the one that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be trackable as well? So can you track those?
Yes.
So you can. Okay.
Yep. And they also display in the grade book.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So say a student takes the quiz, but it was turned into a stealth activity, the grade, completion, still trackable. Yep. Yep. I think that's what makes them so fantastic. There's a lot you can do with them. And again, if you're starting out and you're a relatively new instructor, not something you have to do. I think that the importance here is understanding all Moodle can do and kind of tucking it in your back pocket for something you might want to do down the road. Okay, I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and then I'm going to open it up to you guys. So we're at about 20 minutes to the hour, so I think we're doing pretty good with time. So there was a comment, and Tamara, I want to say it was you, and if I'm wrong, anyone can correct me. We talked about, there was a forum post about the creative uses of the feedback activity and how it doesn't have to just be, tell me what you thought of my course sort of thing. So I wanted to show you an example. eThink Academy is also presenting and coordinating the Moodle Educator Certificate Program that comes straight from Moodle HQ. And I have an example pulled up here of actually one thing we alluded to that you could potentially do, and ways you could use a feedback activity a little bit outside the norm or outside the more straightforward way. So I thought I would show this to you. I'm such a visual learner, so it helps for me if someone says this is possible, kind of just show it to me. So I wanted to go ahead and show you what this looks like. I might have timed out on their site. Let's see. Okay, good. I've been logged in recently enough. So this is an example in one of their modules where they said, here's a feedback activity, but here's a way that you could use it in a way you might not have ever thought of. So maybe you're going to present your syllabus, and maybe you're going to have little checks for understanding along the way. So here's your course. You can put some information in and couple it with a question. So here's my office hours. Do they work for you? Do you prefer another, time frame? So you can make your selection and move forward. Course formatting goals. So again, we're presenting information that might typically be in a Word document or a PDF, but we're making it more engaging, interactive. And so not only are we presenting information to someone, but we're sort of getting their sign off on it as well. So do you understand the format and delivery? Yes or no? Do you have questions? So if I have questions, I can note that. This particular page in the feedback module is saying write out your questions. So again, in the feedback module, you can have different steps. So if I answer in a certain way, you might prompt me to elaborate, or if I say, no, I'm good to go, you might move me forward. So I'll just put something in there. It's another unique piece about the feedback module. And so forth. So here's my grading methodology. Again, this can be mimicked in your Moodle gradebook. So you can take exactly what you've shown them, put it into the gradebook, and then they're graded exactly as you've indicated they would be. This is a proposed calendar, and so forth. This is awesome. Feedback was probably already my favorite module just because I appreciate getting end of course feedback, so I know going forward how I can improve. When I saw this, it was like mind blown. I have to tell you, I went through the Moodle Educator Certificate Program. It could have even been going on a year ago. And the way it inspired me to look at Moodle tools and do things with them I've never done before in, say, almost 10 years of working in Moodle, it was so enlightening. And so I wanted for you to make sure you saw exactly what this could look like. So I won't go all the way through it. Well, actually, we reached the end anyway. Okay, our instructor looks forward to working with us. The other beautiful thing, and a lot of feedback that we've heard from people going through this program, is if they present something like this to learners, they can gather reporting on it. They can look at the overall submissions and say, wow, more than half of the course, my office hours don't work for them, or more than half of them said they don't understand the course goals. And then as an instructor, you can shift gears, you can meet them where they're at, and you can provide more remediation or more supports because you've gathered feedback. You haven't just provided them with a PDF, assuming they get it and assuming they've read it before the first day of class. You really have much more control if you go this route. I just think this is spectacular. Any thoughts or... Yeah, Amy, same thing. I use feedback a lot, but I would never have thought of doing it for a syllabus. I thought this was brilliant.
No,
Maureen,
always surveys or
right,
evaluations or something.
right, exactly, right. It's you think like, here's a tool, its uses for surveying. I'm going to use it for surveying. We don't necessarily think beyond that sometimes. So, good. I'm glad that that's helpful. And Maureen, I want you to use it, and I want you to tell me how you've used it.
I really love this, and I'm going to bring this back to my organization. I was wondering, is there any way to back that piece of it up and share that MBZ file with just that activity in it?
Oh, so basically back it up from this site and put it on our Academy site?
Yeah, just containing that particular, a course that just
Understood.
contains that particular thing.
I have to say, I don't know.
Okay.
So this is the what's the word I'm looking for? It's HQ owns this material.
Okay, got it. That's
So
fine.
I could ask, but the other thing I could do is simulate it for you and
Okay.
build it myself. So
With just some dummy data.
Exactly. Just sort of a, mock-up to give you a visual if you wanted to share with your team.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let's see. I'm just making a note. All right. And I had something else on my mind, and as I was typing to give myself a note, I lost it. Let's see. What was it? All right. It'll come to me. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? If you're not signed up for MEC, and if you're a pretty strong Moodler, this is a wonderful program. And I honestly say that genuinely because I went through it, and the things that I learned, I just don't think that I could replace that experience. It was really, really interesting. So just throwing that out there. If it intrigues you, that's available not only through eThink, but through other avenues. But we just launched our August session this Monday it started, and we'll have another cohort running in January if that appeals.
I'm sorry, Vanessa, could you say the name again to that Moodle educator? What was it again?
Yep, Moodle Educator Certificate Program.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This generally runs, I want to say, over like 8 weeks. So the structure so far has been, we do like a kickoff webinar, introduce you to the site, give you an idea of the expectations. Right now, there are 6 modules included in this offering. There's open content, so learning how to use things like through Creative Commons that are free to the public, and how to cite appropriately and give credit where credit is due, and how to supplement your own personally created content with things like that. Universal design, so how to reach every type of learner, regardless of disability or learning style preference, etc. There are ways to tackle different teaching tools in Moodle, so basically like choosing the right tool for the task. There's a module on assessment strategies, etc. So it's pretty robust. There's currently 6. There are more to come out of 22 total. They haven't been released yet. So right now, The January offering, which will be the next one that's up for purchase through the eThink Academy, that has 6 modules, and that's $349 per seat.
So I have a question. Do you
Go for it.
recommend taking any other courses before you head to the MEC course?
That's a great question, Maradors. And I'm going to tell you honestly that we would suggest that you know Moodle pretty well before taking the Moodle Educator Certificate program, because that program is based off the assumption that you have Moodle experience, that you are familiar with each tool, you've already used them in a number of scenarios, and you want to go a step further. There are some on the line, and Anna and Jody, you were in that round of the MEC, right?
Yes, I can speak for that.
Yeah, please do.
I would recommend not doing it as a beginner.
Right, not doing it as a beginner.
It was over my head. This is a much more appropriate course for me.
Yeah. So, and not to deter either, because the more we know about Moodle, the better off we are as a community and as a group of instructional educators, right? Like, so the goal is, right, we're looking to do as much as we can for our learners. But I definitely think there's steps, and Maradors, you and I spoke about this before, and if you want to chat again, I'm happy to do that. This Build a Better Moodle course, it talks to you about Moodle tools, but it gives you scenarios or propositions of how to use them in ways you haven't, and it kind of is thematically tied to the idea of building your dream house, right? So it's walking you from the ground up. The other offering that we have currently is making the most of new features, and that ties into newer Moodle versions and calling out new features. It has case studies on not only what the functionality is, but really cool ways to use it. So stealth activities, and part of that is tied into that. MEC really comes with the understanding that you already have a really solid grasp on Moodle.
So I know we spoke about this before, but just to remind myself and take notes on it, you suggest that from here I can take making the most of new features, and then maybe think about the MEC.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can do anything you want, whatever your heart desires. But to best support you, I would say yes. Make sure you have a pretty firm grasp on Moodle. Take things in a direction that works for you. And if you want to chat offline, I'm more than happy to do that.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Alrighty. So let's see, where are we at on time? So we have about 5 to 8 minutes. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, anything else to share for the larger group before you get loose with the next 2 topics? The classroom taught me you should wait for 3 minutes to get some feedback. So I'm going to keep that question out there. But one thing that just came to mind that I'll say as you're kind of brainstorming is, we had a really great question from Jody earlier regarding the forums that are in these topics. To earn your badge, and believe me, I've read all your posts. This is a bug that I have to fix in Moodle that says they're unread when they actually have been read. But there's forums in each of these topics that we encourage you to submit to, because this is where I go dumpster diving. So for next week, I get to pull out your exact thoughts and your needs as a cohort. So contribute if you can. This really lends to a robust conversation. However, completing the forum, contributing to it, does not tie into your badge. So as long as you access the actual content here, you will earn a badge for the first 2 topics. So you're not required to submit to the forum, but doing so really lends to the best experience possible for all of us as a group. So I would strongly advise for you to do so, but it's not required. So I thought I would just quickly mention that again. Any other last thoughts?
Other than 3 minutes is quite a long time to sit in silence.
I know, isn't it? Imagine standing in front of a group of 25 middle schoolers.
3 minutes.
It's
It doesn't
awkward.
take long, but it is.
Yeah, but people tend to need time to process, and if you're anything like me, you walked out of the classroom and you came up with a question, you thought, shoot, of course, like it's over, and now I've thought of something. So if that's the case, you know where to find me. I'm always accessible. You can use raise your hand. You can message me privately. You can email me personally or email the eThink Academy site. I check everything daily, at least once, more like 10 times a day. I try to be on top of that. So if you need anything, don't hesitate. And I guess the last thing, and not that you need to share now, but maybe keep it in mind, is let me know how you're feeling about the course. Is it supportive? Would you like more? There is actually a feedback module, of course, at the end where I'm looking for your thoughts, and pretty sure they're anonymous. I'm almost positive I set it up that way just to give you some comfort. I'll double check that. It could potentially be that you're asked to let me know if you're willing to share your feedback or something like that. But anything you ever have to say or contribute or suggest, I'm open to that. So just want you to have a great experience, and hoping you have a wonderful weekend as we're nearing Friday. And if there's nothing else, I'll let you guys go.
Thanks, Vanessa. I really appreciate seeing that cool tab trick with the CSS stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. I'm giving all credit to Daniel. He is a master. So I'll let him know that you guys like that, and let me know how you're doing going forward. Thank you so much for being here today, everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.